Hey, Weather Warriors. In this video, we're talking about a potential big storm that could track up the East Coast. There's a big change that occurred from yesterday's video. I'm going to be going over that, as well as snowfall amounts, track, timing, location, and much more. But before we begin, I invite you to subscribe below if you like detailed educational weather forecast breakdowns just like this. And we're going to get right into it here. We're going to first look at the energy in the atmosphere and the overall big picture here. You can see that this is vorticity. This is the spin in the atmosphere. This aids lift for these storms to develop at the surface. And this is the storm we're looking at right here. This is going to occur from December 3rd through about the 6th or 7th or so. It's going to start off in the eastern United States, the southeast, and track right up the East Coast, potentially hugging the ocean. If this occurs, this will put the Northeast in a big threat for a storm system. But right now, the vorticity advection isn't overly strong. It's kind of centered inside that low. But the big change here is this wave to the north. This was not overly apparent on the models yesterday, as you see in the height anomalies here. This is measuring kind of the average height anomalies in the atmosphere, the temperatures you can kind of derive from this. This is ridging over here. It's usually warmer with ridging. There's also some ridging over here, but it's weakened a little bit. Now there's a much better cool air pool that this system is working with. Yesterday, it looked like it was all by itself. It would have cold air issues. The cold air issues seem to be getting resolved a little bit now. There's still some issues, but it's improved quite a bit, and that's significantly enhancing the snowfall potential for the East Coast. As you see here, this is going to be our simulated reflectivity. What you're looking at is the actual reflectivity potential. This is December 4th at 12Z, which is in the morning, so Friday morning, essentially, at 6 a.m. or so. This line right here is the thing you're going to watch. It's the 540 line, this blue dashed line. This is the area we're going to really want to watch as this moves to the north. That's essentially your average temperature being freezing, your virtual temperature. Now, it's not always consistent. There's some other factors involved. But you can see most of our precip shield is just off to the east here. And so it's mostly going to be rain for the Tennessee Valley in the southeast. Some light rain out ahead of it, but it's starting to organize. As we head towards around Friday night at 7 p.m., you can see that 540 line now moving into Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe some upper elevations in the mountains from Tennessee to North Carolina, seeing a couple of wet snowflakes as we head towards Friday night at 7 p.m. But you can see this low is starting to organize. You can see this wrapping appearance happening within the temperatures. These thickness lines, again, kind of average temperatures, and you can see a gradient forming right there. That's the indicative of a baroclinic zone, which essentially is your fronts are developing. You have a warm front out ahead of it and a cold front behind. So this is a good sign for organization. You can see well off to the north of the warm front where that 540 line sits. There's enough air for some snow up there around Friday night. The issue is that so far north of that warm front low pressure system that there's going to be moisture problems early on. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of snow with that type of look. Don't think that's going to change a whole lot. However, as this low moves to the north, you can see Saturday here at 6 a.m. or so, the low is centered in the Atlantic Ocean here. However, that 540 line, that air mass, hasn't quite made it yet. And I was talking about that yesterday. The main polar air mass is going to be just a little bit late with this system, which will cut off snow potential, at least for the mid-Atlantic and the southern part of the northeastern United States. But that isn't going to be the case for the northeast part. I think there's going to be enough cold air potentially for a snow event. As you see here, these are the 500 millibar height anomalies. Remember that system I was talking about? There was one down there, and then there was that cold air mass up there. This is the big change from yesterday. These have merged together now. And so not only does that little storm have its own cold-generated air mass from its low pressure, it's pooling into a deeper, cooler air mass just a little bit to the north. And it's happening a little bit earlier. You can see that vorticity field. There's our storm system. It's getting sucked in right here to this main wave. And right when that happens, look what's going to happen here. All right, here's the moisture supply. Tons of mid-level moisture getting sucked into this thing. And here's the NAM computer model. And this is going to be at 18Z on Saturday, which is 1 p.m. Huge difference here. You can see this rain to snow line and this comma head appearance forming. This comma head appearance is indicative of a powerful system and potentially even windy conditions. If you get that comma head appearance and you get enough of a cold air mass behind it, when you get these calm ahead appearances, they can generate their own cold air, but when you back that with a nice air mass behind it, that could be just enough for a nice snow event from about Maine down to the northeast portion of New York. The current trends of the models are moving these things just a little bit off to the northeast. I wouldn't be surprised to see that trend continue, but I think this is going to kind of hug the coast where that warm temperature gradient lies. The warm temperatures on the ocean and the cooler temperatures farther into the land. But right now you can see that 540 line kind of right here in this area, and you can see that there's snow indicated south of that 540 line. That would be an indication of very wet snow. So if you see this area right here, it's probably a wet slush, doesn't accumulate too much on the ground, but will on like the grass and stuff. Maybe not so much on the streets. Another thing to keep in mind here is, as we head towards Sunday or Saturday night at 7 p.m., this is the NAM computer model. This is the vertical velocity at 700 millibars. So you can imagine your surface here, your jet stream up there, your mid-levels, your 700 millibars are in between. And this is a good area to measure where the lift is occurring in your cloud dynamics and your precipitation. So if you have high vertical velocity values, just like this, or negative, it's essentially rising motion, and that's indicating very strong rising motion here. When you overlay that with the rain, that's possibly thunderstorms. When you overlay with that with snow, our 540 line was kind of running right through there. That's indicative of potential for some thunder snow. Anything below, typically negative 30, you get a slight to moderate chance at some thunder snow. So as this low is developing, that's usually when you get your strongest surge of lift with those 700 millibar velocity plumes. And right as this thing's really getting to going, and as you get that transition from rain to snow, that's going to be your best bet for thunder snow. Typically happens on the north to northwest side of the low pressure system. That would put places really in the far interior northeast under the gun. Again, these are models. They're going to change a little bit from now through the event. This is the 5th still. And you can see 1 p.m. on the 5th. That's how your snow looks. And here's a zoomed out view of the NAM. And you can see that strong tail of moisture. There's very warm waters out there in Atlantic. A good, nice cold front right there. And again, cold air now being wrapped behind in that classic calm ahead appearance of a decent snowstorm. And again, that's for the northeastern United States. Now, in terms of snowfall amounts, again, I think this is going to move just a little bit to the farther to the northeast. And again, I think there's going to be cold air issues, especially early on with this system. And the models might be underdoing that just a tad. As we head towards Sunday night or Saturday night, 7 p.m., this is, again, your NAM. Very organized look. Will there be a blizzard potential? I'll be talking about that in a second. If you look at the Canadian, this is the model I'm trusting the most. I said yesterday that the Canadian does well for the East Coast. You can see a similar picture. It's just a little bit off to the northeast. I think that trend will continue just a tad to the northeast, and that would put more or less Maine under the gun for this type of event. And the big question mark would be areas towards New York. Now, south of there into Pennsylvania, I think it's going to be a little bit too warm at the moment. There has been some trends that have indicated that they would get snow, but I think it's going to be just a little bit to the northeast. Windy conditions you can see with that particular low pressure system. Now, the GFS is way to the south. It's very warm as well. It has the 540 line all the way up there. It doesn't quite have the cold air mass, but still a decent, powerful system, but it's really off the ocean, not as much cold air. But like I said, I think the GEM has been the most consistent and is pretty good for the East Coast. I want to show you the GFS temperatures. These are 700 millibars. When you get -4 or below, that's typically an indicative sign of snow, and they're hovering right around -5 or so in the northeast with Maine -4, but the precip shield just doesn't quite get into that region. But if you look at the NAM, it's going to be a very close call. You can see as you get towards New York here, you have -10 almost, and then you go out into the Atlantic, and it's +2 or so degrees Celsius. So it's going to be a very sharp cutoff, according to the NAM, from rain to snow. So again, those are very hard to forecast, but we'll have to watch that. The GFS, the 850 millibar, where you get 0 degrees or 32 degrees, that's where you get your rain to snow line typically, and that's right in this area. So, but there was only precip up to the ocean, so the precip shield doesn't quite merge into that air mass, but the NAM, plenty of cold air. So the NAM is much different than the GFS. I think the NAM might be a tad over aggressive at the moment. I'm going with the Canadian, as it's been pretty accurate. Now, this is Sunday night at 1 p.m. or Sunday afternoon. You can see as we get later on into this storm, the cold air does start to wrap around. That's typical with these types of systems, and that's putting Maine and part of Canada under the gun. As you head towards Monday at 1 a.m., you can see the background flurries. These things start to really shear out and widespread snow occurs. But that's going to be a little bit weaker snow typically when these systems shear out. In terms of the actual liquid ratio, snow to liquid ratio, we got generally 6 to 8 or so, 6 to 10, which indicates a very wet, sloppy snow. So I think it's going to be a slushy snow. Here's the snowfall amounts. This is the GFS. You can see it's indicating almost nothing except for a couple inches in Maine. This is going to okay, so we're looking at the GTPS, and this is the Canadian, and this is going to be several different runs at the same time period. So we're looking at trends here. This is several runs ago. This is still several runs ago, and this is the latest run. So you can see it's moved dramatically to the northeast. ECMWF yesterday was forecasting a ton of snow for that region, but that's been bouncing around quite a bit. Earlier yesterday, it wasn't forecasting snow at all. So there's still quite a bit of uncertainty. Again, this is not my forecast. These are the current model runs, and we give you behind-the-scenes scoops. And then you look at the actual wind, and this is the NAM, and this is the wind at Sunday at around Saturday night at around 7 p.m. You got about 25-mile-an-hour winds, and I would guess gusts would be closer to 40 miles an hour. So that's getting close to blizzard criteria, but I think it's going to be, at the moment, just a little under the blizzard criteria. But either way, there's going to be some blowing snow. Probably won't drift a whole heck of a lot because of the wet snowfall, but it's going to be something we want to watch. So that's going to be wrapping up the update, guys. Again, if you like this video, subscribe below. I'll be making more updates of this storm and probably eventually amounts for you guys. Subscribe below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below, and we'll see you soon.